Hey there, rulers. Welcome back to episode 2 of Guess the Rework. And for episode 2, I've got 2 old foul players here. I'm joined by Brandan Bremont and back again, Ryan Miles. There it is. There it is. I can always count on Ryan to bring up the really old intro.
How long has it been gone now at this point?
Like 6 years. It's a long time. But it's still there. So welcome back. We are going to be going through some of the rework protocol cards for those of you who maybe missed episode 1 for some reason. Force of Will did this thing where they took banned cards, reworked them, re-released them with new updated text, and said, we think these are now fine to come off the ban list. And so these two guys, with their Force of Will and trading card game knowledge in general, both of them are very extensive card game players of all kinds of different games. We're going to try to see if they can guess what was changed about the card to bring it back. And this time it's a little bit of a competition. So we're going to see if Ryan or Bremont can come out on top here. You guys ready to go?
Ready to go.
Okay.
Think so.
So first up we have is Interdimensional Vessel Apollo, one of the wonderful zero-cost regalia. Previously, it gave your J-Ruler flying and could tap to produce Moon Will, which then could be used for green for kinds of stuff. For awakening costs or kicker costs, Judgment or God's Art's abilities of J-Rulers with Kaguya in their name. And you could also tap and banish it to bounce something you control back to its owner's hand. This card was pretty good at the time. Zero cost regalia in general just were maybe a bit overtuned, and it is now back and completely in the jank category. So with that, Bremont, you are the new face here. So what do you think was done to Apollo to bring it off the ban list?
All right, so I watched the last video, and I know a recurring theme was a lot of these cards were modified to only work with a specific ruler or a specific sort of category of cards, of types, of archetypes. And so I think that in general, if I don't have any other sense for how this could change, a theme of my guesses is going to be they made this just work with the ruler it was originally intended to work with.
Sure.
So my guess is going to be that it now only produces Moon to spend on awakening costs of maybe cards with Kagi in their name, kind of like how the Judgment of or God's Art is only with J-Rulers with Kagi in their name.
Sure.
Or I think the other part of this card is like the 0 mana bounce part of it. So maybe they made that have a cost to it. Like maybe it costs Moon or 1 to activate the bounce effect.
Okay. So narrowing and bumping up the cost. Ryan, what about you? What do you think they did here?
I'm in the same kind of vein where I think they just made it maybe tied more to Kaguya. And I think they actually just deleted the last ability. I think even if that costs mana and this card still costs 0, I think that's probably just still too good. So I think they deleted the bottom text. And the first part, I'm in the same kind of headspace where it just makes things narrower. I guess Kaguya's whole thing is moons. So spend this will only play awakening costs of moons or something like that. I don't know if there's new moons that
Sure.
That's a good guess.
The moon will.
Sure.
So I think the bottom ability is axed and there's some narrowing on the first half.
Okay. Well, what we have here is that it still costs 0. It gains the following text in all zones as long as you control a J-Ruler named specifically the Kaguya. It produces Moon Will only to play the awakening cost of Resonator spells, so not just any, and the Judgment process or God's Art abilities of J-Rulers you control. And it still has that bounce effect, but now it is only bouncing things with awakening back to its hand. So I'm going to give that one to Bremont because he was closer and he didn't delete an entire half of the card like Ryan did. So that's going to be 1 point to Bremont here as we start. Ironically, Friend from Another World Kaguya was off the ban list as well and then got changed again. We actually talked about this last episode with Ryan, which is probably why this card then found its way back into the jank category because it just didn't get to have both of its new things at the same time, which is a little unfortunate.
Didn't this card also used to be named Interdimensional Escape at one point, or was that just on?
Wow, what a callback!
There was a card called Interdimensional Vessel. Yeah, there was a card called Interdimensional Escape that did that a lot as well. Yeah, both players picked one thing and then got rid of everything else.
Do you remember this story, Jeremy, or do you want to say it, Bremont?
Go for it.
I can't even believe you remember this. So, what event was that? I don't even remember where we were, but it was in Feith Gwyber meta. The blue black Valentina had just come out, and I was playing Gwyber, and I accidentally on my deck list registered my 4 interdimensional vessel Apollos under the name Interdimensional Escape.
Oof,
and
rough.
I know, it was just hilarious because that was a card that was like sideboarded in against Gwyber sometimes. So the judges pulled me aside and said, you can either drop from this event or replace 4 of the best cards in your deck with 4 cards that people typically side in against you. And so I dropped. But some good came out of it because for whatever reason they let me take the judge test and judge that event after I'd already played for 2 rounds, which they should not have done, but they let me do anyway, and that's how I got to join the judge program for Force of Will. So, you know,
there you go.
That's awesome.
Upsides.
Something worked out.
Got some lore.
There we go. Next up, we have Sudden Manifestation of Power. This is a 1-cost red card that says put the top card of your Magic Stone deck into the field. It gains at the next end of turn. Put this card on the bottom of its owner's Magic Stone deck and draw a card. Ryan, well, we're going to alternate here. This card, if not for another card that does something very similar, I think would still see play right now. It just kind of overlaps too much with another card that's used competitively. So that's one of the reasons why it doesn't. But the adjustment to it isn't why it's not played anymore. It just kind of has a little bit more overlap. So keep in mind, this card does say put it into the field. It doesn't say put it into the field rested. So this is just essentially 0 mana, draw a card, and ramp.
Yeah.
What do you think we did here, Ryan?
I'm soft cheating and looking up red wine and bread because this does the same thing. I don't remember looking at the errata or not. Does it say you cannot put magic stones from your magic stone deck into the field in any way until end of turn? That is my guess.
Okay, that's a guess from Ryan, who is soft cheating. Bremont?
I should have just remembered from the last episode.
I'm whatever the equal opposite of that soft cheat is, because I don't even know what red wine and bread does. I've never even heard of that.
Sure.
So I'm like the opposite. So first of all, that this was ever even printed is insane to me. Like, this card already reads is ridiculous, and I don't even know anything else about Force of Will. I mean, the first thing I think is that the Magic Stone has to enter rested, right? So then it triggers your like resonance effects and stuff, which I think is, I'm guessing the archetype this is meant to support is some kind of like resonance effect. I guess you could take the draw a card off it.
Okay. So
yeah, I'm gonna guess that the stone enters rested, and that's it.
Sounds good. So slight change is that it does. Ryan gets the point on this one for his soft cheat, but I'll give you a half point because they did get rid of the draw a card part. It still gets into the field recovered. It just says you can't put stones into the field from your Magic Stone deck in any other way until the end of the turn.
Oh, it's exactly what Ryan said.
So you can't just cycle the card. And the reason why, to go to my point of why this card isn't played now, it's because red wine and bread does something when a stone enters the field and has the same cost. This card just does the ramp, so it's like, well, if I can do the just a ramp or ramp that does something, I'm just gonna play the ramp that does something instead. So that's why this card doesn't see any play right now. You know, nothing like opening up your opening hand and calling your first stone and then being like, what if I just had 5 stones by the end of my turn 1? It's only for a turn, but like, what if, right?
What if?
Yeah. Next up, we have...
It's like 4 Perseus stones and you draw 4 cards
yeah.
at the bottom.
Yeah, exactly. Next up, we have Ethereal of Solaris Ire. What we're really looking at here is that banish a Resonator. Your opponent loses 200 life. You could Solarization it, which means that you tucked a card back from your RFG, essentially delve from RFG to make it cost 1 black. And you can also then... pay a black less if you don't control a Resonator, but control a J-Ruler that shares an attribute or race with this card, meaning that you could just tuck a Darkness card back to play this guy for free. And then when he's destroyed, you could remove a darkness card in your hand from the game. If you do, he gains at the beginning of the end phase. He reanimates. So when he dies, you can burn a card from hand to reanimate him, essentially. This guy, with his rework, has seen 0 play, but he is back. Bremont, I'm going to toss it over to you. What do you think? What did we do here? And again, really focus on that last ability. Because sack outlets in FAO have always been inherently well structured.
Right.
How many sack outlets have gotten banned in FAO? Laverton, Alter, this guy. Fox never got banned, right?
Nope.
Yeah.
As someone who currently plays Fox, no, Fox has not been banned.
Every part of this card seems ridiculous to me, but you told me that it has something to do with the last ability. Banish a Resonator, your opponent loses 200 life. I guess like one way to make that balanced pretty quickly is just to hard cap it to 1 or 2 times per turn. So like activate this ability only once per turn. You could change Banish a Resonator to ban, like, what are this guy's types? Ethereal, Gear, Solar. Oh, I know Gear is a relevant type. I played that in the
Eins.
worlds that I went to.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So maybe you could limit it to, like, Banish a Gear or Banish one of the other types.
Sure.
Your opponent loses 200 life. I don't think changing that to 100 generally is going to matter all that much, so I don't think that's what it was.
Sure.
I'm gonna say it's now Banish a insert type Resonator.
Sure, sounds good. Ryan, what do you think?
Yeah, my understanding is that Eins could like reveal gears and then get their abilities, but they changed Eins. So did they like change this before they changed Eins? Like, did they bring this back before they reworked Eins?
This was reworked after Eins. Eins came back and then this card.
So Eins only got stuff for 1 turn.
Yeah,
or only copies for 1 turn now. So it's like this was banned like not because of an Eins problem. It was just a free card. Okay, was it like an infinite or was it?
It's a sack outlet in FAO. We've never had problems with those.
Yeah, I like my gut says like if it's an infinite, then the amount of life you lose doesn't actually matter. Like I almost want to say your opponent loses 100 life because it's just like, oh, I hit you with like 5 guys, and then like the reach of having this card could be like the problem. So if you just lower the reach, maybe that helps. But if it's like an infinite sack outlet, which is just so easy to do in Force of Will, that's kind of where my head's at. So I'm sort of leaning to just copy Bremont's homework here and just say that you have to banish a Gears Resonator, but I'll be closer because I'll actually name the type. But I don't know. I kind of want to say it's just like they nerfed it. Maybe they added a cost.
Sure.
Okay, I'm gonna be different. I'm gonna say you have to pay a black mana and banish a Resonator to make your opponent lose 200
life. So
life.
it costs some will now. It's not just a free sack outlet. That's fair.
Yeah.
And
that's right.
Ryan is right. No. Ryan gets the other point there. It now.
Oh, and they did hard cap it to twice.
And they had capped it to twice. So yeah, again, Bremont, you were like halfway there, right? But Ryan is technically closest without going over. This is somehow Price is Right rules for card types. So it is pay a black and banish another Resonator only twice per turn. So again, an infinite free sack outlet has always been a little bit of a problem in every card game. VOW's no exception. We've just tried it more than other card games.
They keep trying.
A second one that does the exact same thing is Fairy of Solaris Ire. It has that banish a Resonator, you gain 4 life. So now it's twice per turn and you have to pay white for it. So these two were banned simultaneously because we had decks that were doing the make your opponent lose infinite life, and we had other decks that were just gaining infinite life. So they were like, everyone calm down. We're going to chill on this one. So these guys got changed. Next up, we have a Magical Dragon.
What?
I remember this card.
Yes, you do.
This got banned?
This got banned.
I love this card.
Magical Dragon. Flying 17/17. You pay 1 green less to play this card for each chant you played this turn. On enter, put the top card of your Magic Stone deck into the field rested. I would say now it is firmly in the jank category for what it has been changed for. So with that, we'll have Ryan go first. Ryan, what do you think they did to this card to make it to be able to bring it off the ban list but make it jank?
Why did they kill my boy? They banned Lycion. They didn't need to ban this card.
We'll get to Lycion. We'll go to Lycion in a minute.
They reworked Lycion too.
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay. Holy.
They wanted Green Welser to come back because they also reworked Green Welser too. So we're gonna hit all three of those.
Oh, wow.
The whole little Green Storm engine got reworked, all three of them. So what do you think they did to Magical Dragon here?
That's crazy that they reworked the whole engine. It's not like Storm has ever been a problem in another game either. So
for those of you who aren't aware, just to kind of give an idea of what this dragon did, you played a Storm deck that then played multiple of these guys on turn 1, and you just had so many 17/17 bodies that your opponent was like, I don't even know what I do to answer this, and I concede. So that's the Storm engine that I'm talking about. Magical Dragon was just the finisher for it.
Yeah, and you get a whole bunch of stones. Yeah, I'm gonna say they just like added a neutral will cost and say that it was like they made it like 5 green and 3. That way, like even if you storm and like reduce all the green, you still have to like pay 3 for it. And
okay,
that's gonna be my lock it in.
Okay, he's locked it in. What about you, Bremont? What do you think?
That was the very first thought I had too. Was if you added a neutral cost, then no matter how many spells you played, you'd still have to at least pay for this.
Sure.
But Ryan already said that. So you mentioned that this was a part of like the Welser engine that they were trying to rework. This card, when we were like thinking about playing it, we were talking about like Feathmooge and stuff like that. And so that you brought up that it was a part of the Welser engine makes me think that maybe they did something to make it a part of the Welser engine, which would mean that maybe they added the like Reunion Welser to this.
Okay.
So that's going to be my guess, that they added Reunion Welser.
Sounds good. Well, it now is still base cost 5. It does. I'm going to give this one to Bremont, closest without going over. So we're tied up at 2-2 right now. You can only play 1 spell named Magical Dragon per turn, and you can only play 1 green less for each wind chant of a different name you control if you controlled Welser. So you couldn't just cycle the same spell of whatever type of spell. You had to specifically play a bunch of different wind chants to be able to do it. And instead of ramping a stone, it recovers 2 magic stones. So it can still go very much will positive, because it could get down to being 0 cost. But they did this thing similar to what they did with Ragnarok, which we talked about last time we did this, where instead of permanently ramping you ahead or generating you resources from nothing, they let you reuse resources you already had to make it inherently more structured and fair. So 2-2, we're tied up, all tied up.
Competitive.
Yeah, it's great. Next up we have is Child of the Fire Moon. This is a ruler. It is a Moonchild ruler, so it was used in Hero Cluster. They were just kind of bonus mini rulers that they got, and they had some will filtering, and then all of them had a God's Art. At the beginning of Hero Cluster, every ruler got 2 Moon Children to partner with that you could mix and match. It was then reworked as a whole cluster to only be 1, because it turns out giving people 3 rulers just maybe a little bit too good. 2 rulers was good, but what about 3? So Child of the Fire Moon is still back. It is back now. Hero Cluster in general, I think just has a little bit less attention on it, but I do think that within the Hero Cluster, the rework of this would still be playable. Like, it's still very playable. We just haven't seen people go back and kind of pay attention to Hero Cluster for a bit. So that's kind of my hint there. So the God's Art for Child of the Fire Moon is target spell or ability cannot be canceled or returned to its owner's hand until end of turn. So essentially a free cancel by protecting your own spell on the chase. Or ability on the chase. So Bremont, what do you think they did to make this card able to be brought back?
So the thing that this card makes me think of is like Threat of Activation, where like you don't actually have to use this until they commit their spell in order to cancel yours. Then you respond with this to basically cancel their cancel. One way that you could keep this card conceptually similar, like you can use it as a protection for your spell, but you don't cost them a card in your hand, is you change it to say the next spell or ability you play can't be canceled or returned to its owner's hand. I think that makes it play better and makes it more interesting, and it like keeps a lot of like the philosophy of the card intact. So that's what I think it's going to be. I think they changed it to the next spell or ability you play this turn cannot be canceled or returned to its owner's hand.
Okay. Ryan, what do you got?
That is exactly my thought. So I'm actually going to take it a little bit more narrow. I think it's a little bit weird if like the next ability can't be canceled, just because like if you activate this and then your opponent like kills something and you get a trigger, then like maybe like they like eat your ability, like eat your God Art by like making you trigger an ability. So I'm going to say it's God Art targets the next spell you play cannot be canceled, and it doesn't actually interact with abilities anymore.
Sure. Okay. So now it is that it costs 1 red, and it is a little bit more narrow. The next fire spell you play this turn, spell specifically, cannot be targeted by wind spells, wind activate abilities, water spells, or water activate abilities. Only during your turn, and only if your life is 2,000 or less. So it is very narrow. It is in theme because some of the rulers of Hero Cluster specifically wanted their life to go low and then to play a big bombastic spell. And most of the things that are cancels in FAO are narrowed to just green and white, blue. So I am going to give this one, this is hard because I think you're both pretty on the nose here. So I think I'll call this one a draw. I think you guys are both pretty on par there. Like I said, I think if people were playing around with Hero Cluster more, I do think that the rulers that wanted their life to be low, like that were previously using this, would use it. It essentially is like a kicker for the spell that you want to protect. It's like an awakening, right? Where you're just like, I'll awaken this spell for 1 more to kind of protect it, and it's a little bit more proactive, like you were saying, Bremont, versus reactive. So that's what we got to see happen for that one. Next up, we have an old fave.
Oh,
7-drop Umir.
Oh my god.
I love...
let
me say this. I really do love... chatting with you guys from the old history and seeing the reactions of like, wait a minute, this card's back. I love it. It's my favorite. It's why I wanted to do this so bad. So this is Umir At Tawil. This is a 7-cost 8/8 Will of Despair, which does not matter. When this card enters your field, search your deck for up to 1 non-chant card of total cost 1, up to 1 non-chant card of total cost 2, and up to 1 non-chant card of total cost 3, and put them into your field. Then shuffle your deck. Just casual infinites. Like, if this card was cheated into the field in any way, shape, or form, casual infinites. I will say, when he was unbanned, he officially exists in the Wanderer format as a viable glass cannon FTK. So, he does, grain of salt, glass cannon FTKs work best in a vacuum where people don't know they exist, right? So like you got to be mindful of it, but it is a legitimate, falls in that category of you could try it in a tournament now. So what do you think they did to keep this guy from being insane? By the way, one of the earliest cards ever banned, like very like he was on the ban list for a very long time, and no one ever thought he would be off, for those of you who are watching. So it is cool that they did bring him back. Ryan, you have first dibs on this one. What do you think they did to old Umir?
It doesn't surprise me that this is like not relegated to like unplayable status, because Alejandro works on the game now. Like, I'm sure he would try to make this, like, he was such a huge fan of this card. I had a thought, and then you said it's more like a glass cannon. Like, my thought was just that it had to grab resonators instead of non-chant cards.
Sure.
Or that's like was my first initial thought. And then I was like, what if it's like when this card enters your field, like if it was played from your hand, so like you couldn't cheat it into play, was like my second thought. But since you're saying it's a turn 1 FTK, that's kind of, unless you're just like producing 7 will somehow to try and cheat this out. So I think it's just narrowing what you're actually getting. If it's still doing FTK stuff, I think it's still preserving the identity, and it's just, does it ever like search for Will of Despair cards, since that's like randomly on here for no reason? There's like, the books got reworked, right? They got buffed.
Well, they got buffed and then nerfed and then sideways buffed and then nerfed and then nerfed and then nerfed and then nerfed.
Yeah.
The books had a very much a trajectory of when they were brought back with the Masterpiece Collection of very much a Sherry 2 problem of like they kept trying to do something and being like, wait, we didn't do it right. So, yeah. So, Okay, so I'll take it that your guess is that it's narrowed in what it can grab.
I don't know. I feel like it's like the problem with the FTK with like, the card in the first place was wasn't that you could just like grab additions. You would just like grab 3 resonators to win the game, or you would find some. Like I think there was the 2 cost like addition that gave haste or whatever that kind of like did it, but. Was it like Phaley combo? If I remember correctly?
Where you kept making clones of it. You like Phaley clone combo. Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna say that you just have to search for 3 additions.
Okay.
Oh, that doesn't make any sense. I'm gonna say to search for 3 Will of Despair because I think it's just narrow and typo, and there's probably still an infinite in Will of Despair somewhere. So that's
fair point. Yeah, that's fair.
My guess.
Okay, Bremont, what do you think?
I am just so glad to be seeing this card again. This was one of the cards that like. I remember we played this and got Phaley, Genius Ripoff Artist, the 2-mana library that gives her haste, and then the 1-mana Fire Resonator that could sack for a mana so that you could then copy and go just nuts with this card.
Yeah, fun Easter egg. That card, Library of Alexandria, is the background we used to use on the Teachers Lounge podcast that we all did together for a number of years. So that was a fun little nostalgia pit there.
Oh my goodness, nostalgia is flowing. I think they did nothing to this card. I think this card is totally fair. I think that if you can get a 7-drop into play and then go through the most finicky combo in your life, you deserve to win a game of Force of Will. I think that should probably not work with my modern understanding of Force of Will's power level, and I think that if it does work, that Force of Will is a cooler game. So I think they changed absolutely nothing. They could just eventually they decided they could unban this card because it's totally fine.
So I am gonna give it to Bremont here. He is a little bit closer in the fact that they didn't actually really do anything to him. They just made it so that he only got to go off if you cheated him in if you're playing him with Umir. So you have to specifically play him with Umir to then go off and go crazy with him. Otherwise, you have to full cast him. So they didn't change him at all.
It was kind of close, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so they specifically, and Umir does have a way with the new cards from Masterpiece 1 to reanimate this guy, mainly because it is a small change. They added a race to him. He is now a priest as well, and that priest racial identity opens up Umir to be able to get this guy out on turn 1. So they gave the Cthulhu boy that has no text on his front side an oops, you're dead FTK. And they said, ship it, run it back.
Sounds great. It's like I said, you deserve to win a game of Force Will if you cheat this guy in and the whole combo works out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for sure. So 3-2 right now because of the draw. Speaking of Welser, we talked about him earlier. We're talking about Welser. I do believe that I have both sides of his text, so I'll go over this really quick. Judgments for 0 if you have 10 or more magic stones. Whenever you play a chant, recover a magic stone you control, only once per turn. On his J-Ruler side, he reset essentially everything on your side of the field and redrew 5 cards. And then whenever you play a chant, you recovered a magic stone you control, and whenever a chant you play is placed into a graveyard, it goes back into your hand. So if you played a chant that was produce a will, draw a card, that chant would then go back to your hand, and you would just recast it. And you could do all kinds of Storm Infinite combos with him. I will say, very similarly into the vein of the dragon, he is in the more like jank category, and they still like the spirit of the ruler is still there. And so if people want to play him, they could. He's just more fine-tuned for himself and falls more in the like fan interest kind of category. So, Bremont, the stage is yours. What do you think they did to this guy to make him able to come off the ban list?
Do I get to know if it was a change to the ruler or J-Ruler side, or do I?
I believe it was primarily a change to the ruler side, but I'll have to double check here in a second. I think it might also have been a slight change to the J-Ruler side. Let me double check here.
I really don't know what could have happened to the front side because it's already limited to once per turn. You can't really do less than recover a magic stone while still doing that. Like I can't get half a will. Maybe it's just wind chance now, but even that doesn't sound that limiting. Did he care about any specific type? Like, this guy wasn't like Ancient Magics or anything like that. Or...
No.
Ooh.
Usually the combo ended with a spell that when you had 10 stones dealt 2,000 damage to a target, including your opponent. So you would just produce Infinite Will, draw that card, cast it twice, and win the game. That was how it was previously working.
I see.
You just got the 10 stones and did Judgment like an adult?
Yeah, usually. I mean, most of his shtick was all about ramping stones, hence like the magical dragon and everything else.
Right. Yeah, makes sense.
And he got other tools that let him ramp stones pretty effectively.
Gosh, I really don't know what could have changed about the ruler side. I'm gonna say that in addition to it saying that you have to have 10 stones, maybe it just costs 10 now, like you actually have to tap out for it. That seems a little extreme. Seems a little extreme, but I can't really think of anything else that it could be, so I guess that's going to be my guess.
Okay, Ryan, what do we think?
I think it's going to be more tied to specifically Wind Chant, since that's where the dragon went. So I think the front side is whenever you play a Wind Chant. Judgment still the same. And then the back side, I'm going to say same thing with the bottom line.
Bless you.
Whenever you play a Wind Chant, recover Magic Stone on once per turn, and then whenever a Wind Chant you played is whenever the first Wind Chant you played is put into a graveyard, returns to its owner's hand.
Okay.
It's only doing it once. It's not doing the Infinite Storm bullshit. And it's just more tied to the Wind Chants is my read here.
Okay. We're tied back up. I'm going to give it to Ryan here. So now it is a little bit more narrow. He specifically says whenever you play a non-alternative, non-contract Wind Chant. So it is very narrow. Alternative spells are the ones that are resonators and spells and chants. And then obviously contracts. There was a specific contract called Sword of Progression that got better the more you cast it every single time. But it was technically a contract. So they narrowed it so that those things wouldn't then just proc the green ruler for having a bunch of stuff. And on its
you can play like 5 Sword of Progression in your deck too, right?
4. You can play 4.
It wasn't. Oh, okay. I've been out of the game too long. I was watching some streams.
Yeah, well, we're not going to talk about that. We're not going to talk about it. Right. And then the backside is the same. That is pretty much the only thing they really changed about him is that he only recovers stuff on that non-alternative, non-contract chant. So they really, and it has to be wind. So they just narrowed what caused him to proc and forced you to be heavier wind to play the ruler. Because before he was playing spells that had nothing to do with wind, that were just like cantrip, go mana neutral, like just to do that kind of stuff. Still tied up here, 3-3. Next up, we have Water Spirit of the Lamp. It is a flying resonator, 9/9. When this card is revealed from your deck by an exploration ability you control, you may play it without paying its cost. So one thing to note is that the original exploration ruler was Celesta, and she only could explore on her own turn. And could only reveal one card. A card from Trinity Cluster, a ruler called Lehen, had the ability to explore during either player's turn, and every turn it explored could reveal 2 cards. So you started casting Spirits of the Lamp for 0 will as a 9/9 flyer on your opponent's turn, starting turn 1. So got the axe and has come back. And as it stands right now, would be potentially played in Celesta, is not played in Lehen at all because of the changes. So we'll go to Ryan. Ryan, what do you think they did here?
While this card is revealed from your deck by an exploration ability from Celesta only, or whatever wording it needs to be, where it's Celesta tied, it is not a Lehen, it is only a Celesta card. Okay. That is my thought.
Okay. Bremont?
Yeah, when Jeremy said that it could be played in Celeste but can't be played in the other one because of the change, that kind of narrows it to being exactly what Ryan just said, right?
I didn't say, well, excuse me, I'll correct. I didn't say it can't be played in Lehen. I just said it's not played in Lehen.
Okay.
So,
But so you could play it as a 3-mana vanilla 9/9 in the other deck, is what you're saying. I think that what Ryan said is absolutely right, but I will try to be a little bit different.
We could probably pick the same answer, right? That
Yeah, we can. I mean, we can tie.
It feels unsporting. It feels unsporting. I'll pick something else. When this card is revealed in your deck by an exploration ability you control, you may play it without playing its cost only during your turn. That's what I'm going to say. That'll be my change.
That's
so
good,
narrow to be only
Even though I
during
think
your turn.
Ryan's right.
Okay. I am going
One
to...
more thought.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, this isn't my guess, but I wonder if it's like, if your ruler is Celesta, then you can play without paying its cost, but in Lehen, you could pay its cost. But that's not my guess, but that was like another thought of...
Okay. Well, if it had been your guess, it actually would have been more right.
No!
So, specifically, now it is, if you are using Helen or Lehen, you can still reveal it during your opponent's turn. You just pay 2 instead of pay 3 to cast it.
Interesting.
And then if it's reunited with Celesta, it's still free. So you were actually right on the money there, where it is still instant speed during your opponent's turn. It's just not free to use with those rulers.
I had never seen a card that was reunited with 2 different people before.
Me neither, yeah.
Yeah, so so it was pretty cool there. So Ryan's up, and we move to Recon Gears.
Whoa.
I remember this one too.
This card was crazy.
Yeah, you both used this at the Worlds where you played. So 2 cost, enter, quick cast, choose 1. Target J Resonator you control gains +2/+2 until end of turn. You may reveal a Gears you own from outside the game and shuffle it into your deck. Reveal this card from your hand. If you control a Gears J ruler, put this card into the field. It gains enter, banish this card. I will remind you both that you guys were using this with Tinkerbell, who is banned. She is banned. She no longer exists.
Okay.
So she exists out of the ether. I think this card, Eins in general, I think falls in the kind of jank category. So very similarly, a lot of the Gears generic, very tied to Eins support is going to fall in the jank category. So that kind of gives you a sense of where this guy is going to land. Bremont, what do you think we did here to this guy?
So I think like the last ability is kind of obviously the problem, right? I mean, they enter and then get a gear from outside the game. You get all of the like revealed outside the game gears type things.
Right.
And I don't know, maybe there was a problem with sack outlets or just like being able to flash in a creature for 0 mana. So definitely I think the last ability is the thing that is different. How it is different, maybe it just costs mana 1, reveal this card, and then do that would, I think, take the card down pretty significantly. Yeah, I'm just going to say they added a 1 mana symbol in front of it.
Okay. Ryan, what do you think?
I'm trying to remember, did we play this outside of Eins with Tinkerbell? No, because you needed a Gears J ruler.
You needed a Gears J ruler, yeah.
Right, but it was like the Gears Tinkerbell Eins deck that JPK crushed me with was, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be tied to that free part of the card, but without Tinkerbell, I feel like it's not that good. I know a lot of the gear that you reveal from outside of the game that were even good got like nerfed or reworked, or like Drywing got reworked, stuff like that. So why is the bottom part still a problem if Tinkerbell's gone?
I will say that this card was that Tinkerbell was banned recently after this card was re-released. They weren't like simultaneous. So it wasn't like simultaneous. So this card got to exist in the format with Tinkerbell for a little bit of time, and then Tinkerbell for other reasons got banned because one mana instant speed board wipes turns out pretty good.
Doesn't she also like draw 2 cards or something?
If you put in a 2-drop, yeah. If you put in a 1-drop that turn, yeah, for sure.
What does this card do? Bremont's just right, so my guess is gonna be. I don't know. Do they do something weird with like the trigger where like you said, I think this is like kind of abusable where it like gains an enter ability, and if you like turn off abilities or something, now you're just getting free 6/6s, something like that. So maybe they just say like play this from your hand and banish it. Could be like part of that ability instead of a separate ability. That's like not really what a lot of That's like a direction I would go as like a game designer, but not like what I think Force of Will would do.
Sure.
I just remembered that there was like a ship captain that was legal in the format that like
Ray
turned off
Esnable.
enter
Yeah, it
ability.
turns off enter.
Yeah,
Yes.
so when that was in play, this was just a free 6/6.
Yeah.
I do remember that.
Oh no, Ray only turns off your opponents, right?
Yeah.
No,
so
yeah,
if, you,
they had one as well.
Oh, if they have a Ray, yeah.
just get free 6/6s.
Yeah, I'm gonna go that direction. I do think they just added a 1 to it. You said this is only played in 9s now, and 9s is like kind of jank.
Yeah.
Well, without Tinkerbell, why would you play it else? Yeah. Oh, you need the gears anyway. I'm gonna say that they just like, I don't think this is right, but I think they looped it all into the reveal from this card in your hand. Like it's part of that ability is banishing this card. It doesn't give it an enter ability that sacks itself.
Sure.
I guess.
So this is it's now reunited with the Gears J ruler. That's kind of the same. It still has the same exact cost. The change is, you both kind of missed it here a little bit. The change is that it now reveals a mono attribute non-wind gears. There is a gears that could be revealed outside the game that when it's revealed recovers a stone. So that was what was
Drywing, right?
And also Drywing, right? So that you could like recover all of your stones. And then there's a couple of different ones. Yeah, there were a couple of different ones that when they revealed from outside the game, you just got to do a bunch of crazy stuff, and they both just happened to be wind. So they shifted this so that it could no longer reveal those wind cards. So a little bit of a miss from both of you here, but we're still tied up. Next up, we have Angelic Battle Barrier. This is a 2-cost, very Severing Winds-like card. So there's no way that would need to be reworked at all, So Angelic Battle Barrier, 2-cost. You can play this card without paying its cost if your opponent played 2 or more spells this turn. Your opponent cannot play spells until end of turn. If you control a ruler under contract, draw a card. Ignore the ruler under contract part. That's not why this card would be broken, because turns out telling your opponent no when they only played 2 spells per turn for the rest of the turn, or silencing before recovery and then going off and doing crazy stuff because this is a quick cast card, is why this card had problems. I do think it's a very similar vein to I think this card could still see play even with the rework. I think it's just not as generically good as it was before. And I also think in general combo decks have evolved to have better protections than this, that are not as proactive but are more reactive. So that's kind of why it just hasn't really seen a resurgence, but I still think it is something you could still use. So we'll toss it over to Ryan. Ryan, what do you think?
Is Law of Silence banned at all? I'm assuming no.
Law of Silence is not currently banned. Let me double check to make sure it's not on this list. I'm pretty sure it's not. Yes, Law of Silence is not part of my list. Law of Silence only works with Christie now. So Law of Silence is specifically reunited to only work with the Christie ruler. It's not just with anyone.
So we generally don't like 2-mana silence effects, and this one's free. What do you even do here? Like, this card would be good even if it didn't have that first line of text, if that's the case. So, man, I feel like... Was this card more of a problem because it was like a 2-mana Law of Silence in your own upkeep, or was it more of a problem because of the free part?
Yeah, there was more of that.
That's what I figured.
Okay. Combo decks forcing you to fight and burn all of your resources before recovery so that they can then just recover and kill you. Kind of a danged if you do, danged if you don't kind of a spell.
What was the rule this came out with? Is this an Odin?
This was in Hero Cluster, so it came out with contract rulers, but it wasn't used by
like Tide. Yeah,
it wasn't used specifically for the contract part.
Well, Law of Silence wasn't used with Christie, so I was just trying to see if there was a ruler to tie this to for that kind of limiting. Right. Man, I don't know. They just took all the text off of it and just made it a vanilla spell, the first one ever. I don't even know what to do. I'm gonna say this card costs 1, and it just keeps the last line of text. If you control a ruler under contract, draw a card. They just got rid of the rest of it. I've got no idea what you could possibly do to fix this.
Sure. Bremont, what do you think?
So I think that you may play this card without paying its cost when an opponent played 2 or more spells this turn. That effect obviously calls back to Severing Wind, which was famously the most fair forcible card ever printed. And so, like, I don't necessarily know if I mind that. One theme that I've noticed in a lot of these reworks is they haven't really touched the cost on a lot of these cards. They've mostly just like changing the text box. And so, which kind of makes me nervous to now go against the flow on that. I think this card moved up to 3 mana, and the ability now says you may pay white 1 less to cast this if an opponent played 2 or more spells.
So base 1.
That way, it's like a little bit more restrictive casting in your upkeep, because like 3 mana is a lot more than 2.
Sure.
And it only goes down to 1 if they do that. And I feel like that's wrong because I haven't seen them touch the mana cost yet, but that feels like the thing I'm going to guess anyway.
We're playing to our interests here. So now
so I'm gonna change the mana cost.
So I am going to give it to Bremont because he is closest.
I had no shot on this one.
Yeah, so it has it's double white now instead of white and 1. You can pay 1 white rather than play its cost if your opponent played 3 or more spells this turn. So it doesn't turn on so fast. I do think that there's an element of, back in the day when we were playing with Severing Winds, 2 spells was like, it was like if you could Severing Winds people starting on the 2nd spell, and like even back then it was like, well, they were probably only playing 2 spells. Well, in Force of Will now, like, people can play like 4 or 5 in a turn, especially based on how much mana they have, or before recovery, after recovery. So in general, keeping that 2 per turn was pretty constricting, so they bumped it up to 3 per turn. And then it gave a little bit of a buff to that contract ruler that it was associated with, being Mika. And then the effect was the same other than that. So they made it, this is very similar to what they did with Severing Winds, where Severing Winds had a, was not free and started later, but if you were a specific ruler, you could burn cards from your hand instead of paying for it, still at that same threshold. And they just did the same thing to Angelic Battle Barrier. So, nice. Bremont pulling ahead there. His intuition about the mana cost was right. We'll keep going. This is Generate Replicant. Speaking of Sword of Progression, pay 1 green, search your deck for a resonator of total cost X or less, and put it into the field, where X is the number of times you already played a card named the Sword of Progression this game. Then shuffle your deck. Because, instant speed Birthing Pod is never something that you should be concerned about in any card game ever, when you can just search your deck for whatever. So I will say this card falls in the jank category purely because it has been nicheified in the sense of what ruler it associates with. But in that ruler, this card would still be very good. So what do you think they did to bring this card back? We'll go with Bremont first.
So this is a bit embarrassing. I don't actually know what Sword of Progress does.
Sure. So Sword of Progression was a chance that got better the more times you cast it.
Right, and I knew that part.
So the first time you cast it, it draws a card. The second time, it draws a card and cancels. The third time you cast it, it draws a card, cancels, and bounces something. The fourth time you cast it, it draws a card, cancels, bounces something, and if you're the right ruler, it could contract. Now, if you weren't playing that ruler, the spell removed itself from the game as it resolved, but if you were playing with that ruler, it cycled back into the deck, so you could just keep using it over and over again, because that ruler manipulated the deck. But Sword of Progression in general for a very long time was just the best green 1-drop cancel that we had, because it was like the first one's just draw, but then every other one beyond that is just pure value town.
Okay, so my follow-up question was going to be if Sword of Progress or Sword of Progression was already gate-kept that ruler, but you're saying that it gets better in that ruler, but other rulers can still play it.
Essentially other rulers just don't have the ability to contract, so the fourth mode just doesn't do anything, but they still get to draw, cancel, bounce, draw, cancel, bounce.
Okay.
So
it's not ridiculous for me to guess that this is now Reunion that ruler.
sure, that's a
That would
guess. Yeah,
make it okay.
yeah, that would not be
That makes
ridiculous.
sense to me. Reunion that ruler. Um, then again, this still seems really strong. Like even just casting this once and getting many of the 1 mana like the witches or Lorite or any of that kind of thing just seems ridiculous for this card. And then 2, 3, you're starting to become like the Showtime Priscia or the Priscia's Big Show thing, like kind of encroaching on that territory. And that card was busted. Maybe this isn't okay even with just Reunion. I'm gonna say it's Reunion that ruler and X -1.
Okay,
that's gonna be my guess.
So it takes a little bit longer to start up. Okay, Ryan, what do you think?
What was the name of this ruler again?
Olga, what's his name?
Olga, gotcha.
He was a Moonchild. He was a Sunchild ruler, which worked exactly like the Moonchild rulers. It was just they didn't have as many choices.
I like the fact that it's just like a 1-cost birthing pot is like the crazy part. I wonder if they like, and again, Bremont was pretty spot on with they don't mess with the mana costs, but like you said, it's only really good in the Olga deck.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's not really.
I mean, you could play it in other decks, but like, there's why, you know what I mean? So
yeah. Before it was banned, was it played in just like any sort of progress decks, or was it only in Olga where you could get like X
yeah.
3?
Yeah,
it was played everywhere.
It was played everywhere. It had a very similar vibe to Priscia's Big Show, like which was what Bremont was already alluding to, of just like grab anything.
Were you like solarizing like the progress back into your deck to like?
A lot of people were. Yeah, a lot of people were. Okay. There also was a time being during the beginning of Masterpiece 1 where we had, if you remember the original Lumia ruler, once per turn could cast a card from the RFG. So
if Ryan remembers the original Lumia ruler.
So when
I played the second one.
So when Sword of Progression gets removed, so for that deck, when Sword of Progression would remove itself from the game for resolving, then you just like, well, I'll just cast it again because I'm Lumia. So you just had one Sword of Progression that you just kept infinitely casting.
My apologies. I thought the red-white flicker Lumia was the original.
No. We're talking about Sacred Princess of Guidance.
Stone.
Yeah.
But correct to assume that I would know what every Lumia does, at least.
That's true.
Man, why does this only see play? Like, every change I think about this, I'm like, yeah, you could probably still play that in, like, anything else. So, like, the Reunion Olga just makes, like, the most sense, but, like, I don't... Maybe it's only searching for, like, a certain thing. I'm thinking, again, narrowing what you're allowed to grab off of it, and it's only grabbing something that Olga cares about.
Okay.
I don't know what Olga does. I don't know if he has a type that he cares about. But like Reunion Olga just feels like the clean thing here.
Okay.
Can I add one quick thing to my thing?
Sure.
This is like me like putting together like the tiniest little like threads of Force of Will knowledge
He's in.
This is pulling like the thinnest strings from my memory. I saw a card called Replicant Scheherazade at one point, just like from looking at the like spoilers that would show up on my Facebook page.
Yes.
And this card is called Generate Replicant. So now I kind of want my thing to be search your deck for a card with the type replicant or the word replicant in its name. I want to modify mine to that.
He's taking a I'll let you have this one pivot. So Ryan, you get a pivot later too, okay?
Cool, yeah.
So we're locked in. Bremont has burned his do you want to burn your pivot, Bremont, or do you want to stay with it? He's burning it. He's burning it.
Well,
my guy, he burned it correctly because that's exactly what it does. So it is so it is
I talked it in.
So it is still tied to Olga for sure, but it now specifically only grabs replicant resonators instead of just any resonator.
I feel like Sherlock right now. Like Ryan was talking, and in the card, the only replicant I've ever seen in my life is Replicant Scheherazade, and I came up with that. That was great.
I will say this: many of quite a few of the replicant resonators were or are still competitively viable. Like the replicants are very, very strong cards. And in fact, Olga just recently this is another kind of vibe where I'm like, if people spent more time on Hero Cluster, I think this card would see more play, because Olga got 2 new replicants that both modify the number of sort of progressions you've cast this game in other ways. So they there's a blazer that you can pitch from hand as an activate ability to cantrip and pump up your sword count. So then your first sword can just go straight to the cancel mode, like those kinds of things. And it's like, if people spent more time on Hero Cluster, I think this would see more that just new fancy shiny toys and we all have the attention span of a goldfish, like that kind of idea. Next up, we have Electo, the Unstoppable Fury. There's another, it's the reaction count of how many times we see some kind of response. So, blue, Bane, remove 3 Resonators in your graveyard from the game to put it from the graveyard into the field, and null, when you would draw a card, your opponent banishes a non-Magic Stone, non-J-Ruler entity. If they don't, they discard a card. Keeping in mind that null is your hand is empty. So this card has found its way into neat, like it's definitely in the jank category coming back, but it is back. So with that, Bremont's ahead 4-3. Ryan, what do you think we got here?
I feel like I've seen the fixed version of this card just because I was still sort of forcible adjacent when they did it.
Sure. Can he tap into his mind palace?
Yeah, God. I want to say it's tied to Beatrice, and I think that you have to remove 3 Resonators from the graveyard from the game, pay blue-black, and put this card from your graveyard in the field, and only at sorcery speed.
Okay. So a cost and non-instant speed and tied to Beatrice. Yep. Okay.
That is my, and I don't remember if there was something else tied to the null, or if that was maybe draw a card, opponent finishes a non. That's really broken too. But I'm gonna say they left that alone and just said you have to be Beatrice for this card to do stuff, and you have to pay blue-black, and it has to be sorcery speed.
Okay, Bremont, what do you think?
So Beatrice had a lot of ability to discard her hand, just kind of constantly. It was sort of her deal. And I remember when we were first messing around with this card, because this card was legal in this state when I was playing and thinking about the game a lot. The second ability could come up frequently. Like you could use the Beatrice ability to draw a card, then discard that card, then use another effect to draw a card, and then discard a card, and then kind of make them go hellbent. I think that the first ability reads as the problem, like the recursiveness, but I remember the second ability, like the fact that it could be used multiple times a turn if you had your own discard outlet and draw ability was a problem. So I think that they hard capped the second ability to the first time you would draw a card while you're null in a turn, or made it once per turn. Okay. But I'm sure that Ryan's also right about restricting the recovery as well.
So now we are, if it would be put into, so they added on if this card would be put into the graveyard from the field, expel it, so it couldn't just keep the same copy, couldn't just keep coming back over and over again. It is tied to Beatrice. It is a named ability in the fact that named abilities are essentially Force of Will's version of hard once per turns now, because you just couldn't reanimate like multiple Electos all at once. And Bremont is right in that it is only once per turn. So I'm gonna give it to Bremont because he's technically closer, because they kept the cost. They kept the cost the same, and they did kind of hard cap that ability. So Bremont's up 2 points now. Ryan, you gotta get back in it.
Working on it.
Yeah, I believe in you. I will be interested to see if this card comes back into play once Masterpiece 3 drops, because Beatrice is going to be getting new current power level support alongside all of the other rulers, which does mean something like this could return back, because it is, like you said, if you're hellbent, you can make your opponent hellbent possibly too, which would be pretty neat. Next up we have is Spirit of Decay. Enter, put X +1/+1 counters on this card, and your opponent loses X hundred life, where X is the number of cards in your graveyard, and you can remove a +1/+1 counter from this card. Target J/Resonator gains -2/-2 until end of turn. This card, I would say, falls very similar into the if players played more attention, like if players were willing to experiment a little bit more, I think you would see this card be experimented with. But it just falls into it's not the attention deficit, ooh, shiny, a silver bullet that it used to be. The problem with this card was that you could loop it. And even if your opponent killed this card in response to its enter effect, it didn't matter because it counted the number of cards in your graveyard. It has nothing, like it doesn't care if it's alive or not at its resolution. And so you could just drain your opponent like 6,000 life in a single turn, regardless of what they did. So, Bremont, we're going to toss it over to you. What do you think here?
Gosh, I almost have no idea. Put X +1/+1 counters on this card. I don't really know how you could even make that worse while keeping like the spirit of it intact. I'm guessing the second ability to remove a counter and like stopped board wipe is not that relevant, or at least wouldn't be the problem. I'm guessing the problem is you just milling your entire graveyard and then milling your entire deck and then killing them with the first ability.
Right.
But you think this is still possibly viable, so it's not like they just completely gutted it?
Yeah, I would say that like it as it's being reprinted, it can still try to do what it was initially played to do. It's just people aren't. This is from the dual cluster. This is from the dual cluster, which is the order ruler era, and people just are not paying attention to dual cluster outside of very specific rulers. So it's the same kind of thing. Where like, I still think it's probably more in the casual, like it's probably more of the like jank rogue pick category, but it's just not being played with.
I'm kind of reading between the lines here, like that you even believe that this is so relevant with a specific cluster makes me think that it has reunited with some ruler from the cluster that you're talking about.
Sure.
I don't know any of the rulers in the cluster you're talking about, and I also don't know what cluster this is even from, so I cannot guess which specific one.
Sure.
But I'm going to say they added reunion, whatever ruler this intended to go with.
Sure. Ryan?
I'm on the same page. It's reunion to whatever ruler cared about this little dude. Is it like Wolfgang? I don't remember.
That's okay. That's okay.
My thought here to fix this ability, on top of doing the reunited, is that you get X +1/+1 counters, and you get X +1/+1 counters where X is the number of cards in your graveyard, but then your opponent loses life equal to the number of +1/+1 counters on this card. So it's not just something that you can play, and if it dies, it's checking the number of cards for the damage. You have to actually get the counters to deal the damage. So that's the change, I think, to fix that problem. And I do think it's reunited with whatever, like this is a card, like they had a design intention with it. Us Forceful players, we broke it wide open. They're like, all right, play it the way we wanted you to play it, kind of thing.
Sure. Well, that one is, I think, gonna go to Ryan, which is so the dual cluster was a cluster where the rulers made resonators into rulers. So you was this mechanic called ordering, where you flipped your ruler over and made a J resonator into a J ruler. So this card says if this card is a resonator, and you control a J ruler with Force Command Rebirth, which is essentially the reunited concept for that cluster. You put X +1/+1 counters on this card, where X is the number of cards in your graveyard, and your opponent loses Y 100 life, where Y is the number of +1/+1 counters put on this card successfully. And then it still has that minus ability. So essentially, Ryan is correct here in the fact that we could respond to try to kill this thing first before it got those counters, and thus save ourselves from the life. And it has to stay as a resonator. You couldn't order it. So the one thing about the order mechanic, too, is that ordering a resonator is unchaseable, and it always hit the field. So you could just pay one, I'm going to drain you now. And so this specifically now couldn't make use of that mechanic to start draining your opponent.
Does it really need to use Y? Like, I don't understand why this couldn't just say where X is the number of cards in your graveyard, then your opponent loses life equal to the number of counters on this card. Like, Y is just so awkward, right? Am I crazy?
It is. I mean, I think that's fair. I think it's a little bit of mucho texto in the terms of, you know, we could have this could have been more succinct, but yeah, that's what it does. So right now Ryan is only down by 1. Ryan, you got time to bring it back.
I've still got my pivot.
He's still got his full pivot. He's still got it. He's banked
lifeline.
His lifeline here. So this is Painter Gears. It's a 0 cost 0/1. You may have up to 8 copies of this card in your deck. Enter, choose an attribute. Target entity or spell gains the chosen attribute until end of turn. So you can make something have a different color, essentially, here. So I will note the main reason why this card got hit is that there is a card called Back to Nature that was in the order cluster, the dual cluster that we were just talking about, that was destroy target light or water entity. Players can't chase this card. And this just says
so blow up stones.
Yeah, you know, casually. Untraceable stone destruction. You know, it's fine. Don't worry about it. So Ryan, what do you think we did here for this card to make it playable? To make it bring it back up? It's still very jank. Like at the time it was very jank, and then they were like, "Oh wait, this is a bad implication." Kind of like what you said on the last card of like, we the Force of Will community broke it in half, and they were like, "Wait, no, stop." And so they quickly fixed that. So, what do you think they did to this card?
I mean, I do think there's a problem with this card in the top left corner where there's no mana cost, and that's just, you know, a good red flag. But I do think they just said target non-magic stone entity gains the chosen attribute. That feels like exactly where my mind went when I'm like, what can you do with this? And if you give a stone an attribute and let you kill it, that's probably the problem. So I'm gonna say non-magic stone entity.
Okay. Bremont, what do you think?
That's exactly what I was going to say. I can't think of anything else.
This is why we alternate back and forth for who gets to go first, right?
Yeah, I would guess that Ryan is absolutely right on this. There's almost nothing else on this that makes any sense. Like, this doesn't seem all that good if it's not doing exactly that. Choose an attribute, target editors. I guess I'm just going to add like a little bit more specificity to try and steal the point. I'm going to say that it's target non-magic stone entity your opponent controls.
Okay. So, it's now tied to specific. It's now tied. It now costs 1. So Ryan was right on that again. 0 cost versus 1 cost. It is now tied to a specific ruler. They can choose an attribute, target spell, or non-magic stone entity, so you can still target your own stuff. And then they kind of weirdly narrowed the free cost part of it. The rulers Zex and Noon tagged together, so one could call stone and then the other could be used to play this guy for free. So in their specific deck, they had a way to make these guys 0 cost. It just wasn't every single version of it could be a 0 cost, and it was 1 cost for everybody else. So we're tied back up.
Did those rulers care about making things certain attributes?
Yes, they did. Way? Yeah, so they had spells that could cancel stuff that had multiple attributes or play around with things that had different additional attributes than they were initially printed with. So that was kind of their whole shtick. And then again, as I said, blowing up stones. You know. Next up, we have Warhorse.
This guy.
1 white, enter. A J Resonator you control gains swiftness until end of turn. When this card is put into from a graveyard from the field, you gain 1,000 life. Let's Ride. While searching your deck, you may play this card from your deck without paying its cost. Each search, you may only play the effective 1 Let's Ride ability per turn. Keep in mind this says each search. So, you know, multiple searches per turn, just grab multiple, you know, it's fine. Don't worry about it. Because the Force of Will, historically, even back when we were playing in the day, searching multiple times per turn never came up in Force of Will's history. Never, ever.
Yeah, how did this card ever get...
Yeah, like I remember this card being printed, and like, even reading it right now, I'm like, literally, how did this ever exist? Like,
what? There's no fair way to play this card. What are you even thinking?
I do want to point out that for a while this card was so good that the Machina 1 ruler from the Alice cluster was winning events because it would just it would just once per turn pay 0 and search for a card because of the ruler ability, and then get to just grab war horses.
Obviously nonsense.
Like the craziest part to me is like just the bottom line. Like if I just got a free 4/4 for search in my deck, I think that would be a good ability. And then you get to the first line and you're like, why does that exist? And then it also just gains you 1,000 life. Like that's like, why does it do all of that?
Yeah, for sure. So needless to say, this card is very jank because you would have to make it very jank in order to argue that it could come off the ban list. So with that in mind, Bremont, you are up first. Let's see if you can figure out what they did for this card.
So they just deleted the last line, right? It just simply doesn't have that anymore. It's just 1 white for, like, it's almost so funny is that, like, 1 white for a 4/4 enter, gain swiftness, and then when it dies, gain 1,000. I know that's not playable today, but back when I was playing Force Will, that would have been a playable card. Like, can you imagine, like, giving Gwyber swiftness, like, in playing this and sacking it to Guinevere? Like, that would have been good back in, like, with just the first line is almost playable. But obviously not today. They just deleted the last line, or maybe they said, while you're searching your deck, you can pay the cost to play this. Even that seems too good.
Okay. Final answer. Let's lock it in.
I'm gonna say that it costs white and 1, and you have to pay for it when you're searching your deck now.
Okay, so
it costs twice as much. You have to pay for it.
Okay.
Yep.
Ryan, what do you got? It's your chance to break ahead. It's your chance to break ahead here.
Yeah, but I'm getting like Killua vibes where like I was trying to think of, how'd they change Killua? And they're like, you're a dinosaur deck now. Just something I never would have thought of in like a million years. So this is like, there's just no way that any part of this card, like that you're allowed to play this card from your deck, obviously. But it feels like when they want to fix this, if you just make it a 4/4 that gives something swiftness, it's just like not cool. So I feel like they just did something even more ridiculous. I'm gonna go. I just like can't like create something out of the ether to like what they might have changed it to.
Sure.
Let's go. Yeah, that last ability. What does Force of Will do about that last ability? Do they like keep it and throw 17 hoops on it, or do they actually just delete it? I think they throw 17 hoops on it. So Machina was the problem. Was Machina the best deck when this got banned?
Yeah, for sure. Machina was for sure absolutely the best deck.
It wasn't like they had another thing come out and they're like, okay, now it's time. All right.
No.
Yeah, I'm gonna say. Oh God, is it like tied to a ruler, or do you need to have like a light ruler even? Like it feels like they always like solve the problem as targeted as possible.
Sure.
And like maybe they just like say it's not machines. I'm gonna say it's some sort of ruler tied. I don't know what this card came out and was like supposed to be used for. Okay. I'll just say a light ruler. You have to have a light ruler for that to happen. You have to pay the cost. You give a beast J resonator swiftness until end of turn.
So many hoops.
You can only play this card once per turn. That's just what they do, man. I don't know.
So many hoops.
And then they made it gain 500 life instead of 1,000 because I don't know why that's on the card.
Well, actually, interestingly enough, you did get that part right. They have the life total gain from it. So when you're searching,
Sacred Knights, not
while you're searching your deck, you may play this card from your deck. You play this card for full cost, so you're both right on that sense. You can perform only 1 Let's Ride ability per turn, so you can't just do it every search, and only if you control a 12 Sacred Knight Resonator. So Ryan is right in the fact that it's tied to having something else. It just wasn't the ruler, and then it just gives it. So this card did get re-released in the ABC starter decks, which came with the light. I believe the light blue one came with a very heavy swell of 12 Sacred Knight support, including a very specific 12 Sacred Knight ruler. And so they wanted him to have this kind of mechanic to go along with there. So Ryan pulling ahead.
We throw enough spaghetti at the wall.
Something eventually stick. Yeah, for sure.
I knew it was. I did get the typo call out. I just said beast instead of 12
for sure. So Severing Winds we kind of already talked about before. I kind of gave up the ghost on this one. The main change is that again, it starts at 3. It still costs you 1 green will. You can expel a wind card at 3 instead of paying the cost if you control a Wanderer J-Ruler. So it's that same kind of vibe as Angelic Battle Barrier, where it starts later, it still costs will unless you're a specific ruler, in which case you could burn a card from your hand. I will say I was actually the contract Reflect and Refrain rulers are Wanderers and are a green heavy cancel deck where they fight on the chase all the time. So I was using this spell at a couple copies in them, and it was pretty fun. So that was just kind of neat to bring that card back and bust out my old GP promo ones on it, which was neat. Next up, we have a card that Ryan is very familiar with. This is Demonic Dead. Bremont, you should also be familiar with this. Good old Sack Altar Loops.
Yeah. So Sack Altar Loops. I remember this getting banned for Fox. This was
also Fox card as well. 2 cost 3/3. Pay 500 life. Put this card from your graveyard into the field rested. What I would say this card is now is this card is very good for specifically the ABC zombie deck. And it's very cool for that deck. I really like it. But if you don't play that ruler, you're not playing this card. And so it's not, I will say it's not, I'll clarify that to not throw you off the scent. It's not reunited. That ruler, that's not why it's good for that ruler. But it is good for that ruler. So, Bremont, you get to take the stage here. What do they do to Demonic Dead? A infinite pay life to reanimate card to make it playable and not cracked in half.
They don't have finality counters in this game like they added to Magic. Well, that would be kind of cool with this card. Maybe it would make it completely unplayable, but it'd be neat. Pay 500 life. I think they're gonna do what they did with Warhorse, where you have to have a 12 Sacred Knights. I think this card you can only do it if you already have a zombie in play.
Okay.
They changed it to like a zombie type like support card.
Okay.
So activate only if you control a zombie.
Sure. Ryan, what are we thinking?
That's kind of where my head was at too. Activate only control a zombie. I had 2 thoughts. It's once per turn. There was another thought I had. I don't remember what it was. Pay 500 life, put this card from your graveyard into your field rested. I think it's once per turn, and it's a named ability, so that you can't do it with multiple demonic. I guess it doesn't matter for ABC, but I think that's still what they would go for. I think it'd be a named ability that can only happen once per turn. Sorcery Speed was the other one.
Okay.
I think they made it Sorcery Speed.
Okay.
That's my
last second, right before I passed, I thought about that once per turn.
So
thing.
it is Evil Dead, pay 500 life. You may play this card from your graveyard. So your turn and only 1 Evil Dead per turn. So it doesn't just pay 500 reanimate itself. It is pay 500, pay at resolution, pay 2 cast. But it is not. It is instant speed still. You can still do it at instant speed. It's just only on your turn. So you could do it before recovery. You just can't do it.
Okay.
You just can't do it there. I will say
it's half sorcery speed.
Yeah, it's like half sorcery speed. I will say that for the ruler in question, Garmheld, he specifically at the end of every turn lets you cheat in or reanimate Demonic Dead or Niflheim, the old graveyard edition, from hand or graveyard. So every single turn you get to kind of bring one of these guys back for free, and he also is tied to that Evil Dead ability, which does let him cast this guy at instant speed on your opponent's turn using his ability, because he casts things with Evil Dead. So that's why it's kind of linked together. He's pretty fun. I like him a lot.
Interesting.
So Ryan takes that one as now he's the one who's up by 2.
I got some more
on a tear here.
Great Wall of the 12 Sacred Knights. So blue and white, enter, draw a card. You gain barrier, prevent all damage that would be dealt to you. If 900 or more damage was prevented by this ability, destroy this card. I will say this card received an emergency errata and then was still E-banned before Worlds, where it no longer... there was loops where the errata in question was that it if you were able to give this card Eternal, it just couldn't be destroyed, so it just kept preventing damage. So they forced it to like banish. This card gets banished instead. So that's not what we're talking about. It was then E-banned before the worlds that you guys both played in, because it got cheated in at the beginning of every single game by both players, because of the rulers that we were playing at the time. So now it is significantly less good. And again, it's a hero cluster card where, because of how hero cluster rulers are just not the focus right now, it's just not being utilized. So what did we do here, Ryan? What do you think?
So if you gave it Eternal, it would just prevent all damage.
So they forced
all
it
right,
to they forced it to get banished instead. So
you said it was errata before it got banned, E-banned for Worlds. What was the errata before Worlds?
The errata was that it banishes itself instead of being destroyed. So you couldn't give it Eternal and then just be safe for forever.
Gotcha. I don't think this draws a card anymore.
Okay.
And I think it only works with the. Was there a blue-yellow
Aristella
ruler?
Aristella.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it's tied to Aristella, and you don't draw a card anymore.
Okay. Bremont, what do you think?
That seems right to me. Prevent all damage that would be dealt to you. 900 or more damage is prevented. There's no way they just took the type cocoon off of it so that that Aristella couldn't start with it, right? That seems a little crazy.
Okay.
It's like this card is only busted if you're cheating it, right? And so like if it's not getting cheated, it seems almost unplayable. I think what Ryan said is the most correct, but in the interest of not guessing what he guessed, I think they just took the type cocoon off of it.
Okay. I kind of have to steal it from both of you here. Because it's still a cocoon and it still draws a card. It's just now tied to only having text if you control 2 or more 12 Sacred Night Resonators. So it's it's playing into the tribal aspects, and you have to specifically try to maintain a board in order to have it continually to stay active. And now it also says expel this card, so you can't keep recycling it. It's just back in your sideboard it goes, if it gets answered. We got a couple more here, so we're giving Bremont the chance to tie it back up to close out the night. So here we go, couple more.
Lock it in, boys.
This guy.
This is Sealed One-Eyed Dragon. This is 1 red, 1 black, 7/7 with Precision and Bane. You can pay 600 life and discard it to deal 600 damage to something, including your opponent, and you can pay 600 life and discard it to draw a card. You can pay red or black, only if it's in your graveyard and you lost life this turn in any way, to put it from your graveyard into the field. It gains swiftness until the end of turn, and at the end of the next turn, its controller banishes it. So, you know, I don't know if you know this, but if I'm at 3,800 life, and if you're at 300 life, I can just pay life to kill you. And it turns out I can also just pay life to draw cards to maybe also kill you. So really the epitome of life is a resource was this card. And it still sees play now. In certain decks, in fact, in Wanderer, it sees play. So that's where I'll leave it. That it still sees some play in Wanderer with how it's been updated. And Bremont, you're locked in. So, and it's your chance to go first. Let's try to claw it back. I believe in you.
So, another card that you just kind of read it and you think, how did this ever get printed? But pay 600 life, discard this card, deal 600 damage to a player is very frustrating. Like if you are playing against an aggro deck and you are not an aggro deck. One way that they could really kind of nerf this card for that frustration is to take off target player. So now it's only 600 life, deal 600 damage to target J Resonator. The 600 life, discard this card, draw a card is good. That seems basically fair to me, and that would also leave it kind of like what you said, where it's still playable in Wander. Like some Wanderer decks are just okay being down 600 life to play one less card in their deck. And then also, like, you get to then cast this card if you do that because you lost the life. So that's what I think this is.
Okay.
It's just the first ability can't hit players anymore.
Okay. Whoa, don't look.
Oh,
I clicked the button wrong. Ryan wasn't paying attention anyway. It's fine. Ryan,
I was actually just thumbs upping a Discord message. I
Perfect.
honest to God missed it.
Perfect. So Ryan, what do you think? What do you think this card did to be made more fair and still semi-playable?
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that this was good because it hit players. Because when I read it, I'm like, deal 600 to a Resonator for 0. Like, that's just a removal spell. Like, that's pretty good. So in that context, it's also just like a 7/7 precision Bane. Like, that seems obviously like that's not what modern Force Oil probably cares about as much as the old guys. But we played Lance a lot back in my day, you know. Place ability, put this card. And that just like can be played even if you like didn't use it in the same turn, like just anything else. How do you fix this card? Do you just like get rid of the? You said it's still playable, like in general, or like in some decks.
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask what decks are playing it?
I mean, it's
like
mostly used. It's mostly used by, you know, burn decks or combo decks. I will also say no. I will also say there is there is a Resonator in this game that on enter searches for a dragon and bins it, and if it does so, it burns your opponent. So that also, you know, that kind of ties this card to that a little bit as well. You know, so
I can search this with Bahamut, right?
It also is a dragon still. Yep, that's true.
Yeah. I don't know if that matters. Man, okay, so it's actually crazy to me that the problem with this card is the target player part. I mean, like, it makes sense, but like there's just a lot else going on here that's just like all of that's crazy, but that's the part that really did it in. Wow. Yeah, what's the solution to that? I'm kind of in the same vein of Bremont here, where it's like they just made it shoot a Resonator, but like that's the part that's like setting off alarm bells for me too. So it's crazy that that's not good. I'm just staring at it and not coming up with anything better. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Bremont. What was your exact answer again, so I don't copy it?
Well, my exact answer was that you can't target players anymore, but Jeremy said this was still played in burn decks, so I'm guessing that's probably not what the actual change is.
Well, I just described a card that sends dragons to burn your opponent.
True.
It still comes back, yeah. Yeah, man, this one's really tough.
Take a stab.
I'm really not coming up with anything. Yeah, I'm not coming up with anything here. I think it's just gonna be pay, discard. Maybe just remove the whole first ability. They also got rid of the shooting Resonators because I think that pay 600 and discard this draw card is good enough with the second ability attached.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna say they got rid of the first ability entirely.
Okay, this is very clearly one of you guessed 2 cents and one of you guessed 1 cent, and the actual retail price was $1,300. So Bremont, you are going to get this point. So it is now an inheritance that costs a will and paying life, and then at resolution pings you and your opponent, it pings you and target player or J Resonator. So it still hits face, and then pays inheritance is the same wing. It's pay a black and pay 4 to deal 400 damage to you and to draw a card. So it's still 600 for yourself, but the idea is that it now costs a little bit of will, and also now its reanimate ability is only if damage was dealt to you, not if life is lost in any way that turn, and now only has belligerence, which means it can't go face the same turn you reanimate it. It can only attack stuff. So still very much in keeping with the spirit of the card. It's just not as free to do so and more narrow in scope of, like, you can do so silly things such as, I'm going to pay 600, pitch this card, blow up your blocker, and then immediately reanimate it and swing at your face for 7. Like, you can't do that anymore. So I'm going to give it for Bremont, which is going to... Again,
I'm not sure I deserve the point, but I'm taking
I
it.
preface it by one of you guessed 1 cent and one of you guessed 2 cents, and the retail price was $1,300. Closest without
Give
going
me the
over.
point to keep the game possible.
So,
Right.
we're back.
Can I peek now?
You can peek now.
Oh, this is my
These
favorite.
So
Yes.
to end out our
Oh,
our
boy.
second episode here, I am going to go a ruler that both of you know, and Bremont is near and dear to your heart, as you have played many events using this ruler. This is Feathsing, one of the original tag rulers. Judgments for 3. Before the game starts, you may mulligan up to 3 times instead of once. You may do judgment anytime you would play a card with quick cast, and it taps to produce 1 void. Spend this will only to play chance. And it tags with 6 sages, so it could just partner with another 6 sage. And then as a reminder on the backside,
Maybe Moonstart.
like maybe Moonstart or Almarius. Instant speed, judgment is pretty good with a reanimate on a body. And on its J ruler side, it was a cancel spell and a fog on a specific source until the end of the turn with flying. So, boys, I will say that while it is playable, it is not the pairing of 6 sages that you really want to be doing now. There are just better pairings to be done with it. I still think you could play it as a pairing, but obviously we can all tell what the most broken part of this card is. It's very clearly that you can judgment mulligan 3 times at the beginning of the game and just sculpt the perfect hand. I will say, as a note though, after this card was reworked because of some additional rulers that were printed, the mulligan rules for Force of Will did change in that they are now draw, put on bottom, shuffle, redraw. It is no longer just draw, put on bottom, redraw. There was other rulers that cared about the bottom of the deck, and so they would essentially use the mulligan to their advantage and put the perfect card on the bottom of the deck. So the mulligan rules have rechanged, but that was after this card received its errata. So, Ryan, you are in the lead by 1, and it is your turn to go first. So you have the opportunity for the lockout here. What do you think they did to Feathsing to make it unbannable?
It's funny because you said we all know what the broken part of this card was, and my brain was like, yeah, the free mana, right? And I'm like, oh yeah, no, it's been a
well,
it's been a while since
well, to
I've
be
played
honest,
Force of
it
Will.
was also that. Like it wasn't like I guess it was also that.
That was the side part, right?
The joke I was going to make was that we all know the most broken part. It's the quick cast judgment, right? That was going to be the bit of like clearly the worst part of this card was the broken card because of how crazy it was. But yeah.
It is funny to me that the first time they did this effect, they like just said you can mulligan 3 times instead of once, and it's like we just never tried twice. So that's going to be my first guess actually, is that they just said you can mulligan twice, and I do think that like is a significant like nerf to the consistency of your opener, obviously. But I do think that produce 1, spend for chance is just like was one of the craziest parts of this card as well. I am gonna just like throw out you may do judgment for Feathsing only, like not giving that quick cast ability to the ruler that it's tagged with. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they just took tag off of this card because this ruler is broken, but I don't think they did that just because it's like the identity of all of them kind of makes sense that no other ones got reworked. So mulligan twice, only this gets quick cast judgment, and then for the final ability, they did something. What did they do? Produce 1, spend this will only to play chance, and only if you control a J ruler. So you have to judgment your other 6 sage to actually get access to that.
Okay,
that's going to be my 3 guesses.
Okay, he's putting 3 a change to all 3 effects because it's not like all 3 of them were busted or anything. Bremont, what do you got? What do you got for us?
Am I allowed to ask if are we just looking at this side, or is there some possible change on the J ruler side?
We're just looking at this side. The J ruler side was left unchanged.
I think I absolutely agree. My very first thought was that it was down to 2 mulligans instead of 1. I think that makes the most sense. It's very natural. it takes away a lot of the problem of consistency. And then I think that's I'm locking that in for sure. 2 mulligans. I don't think that I think that like a lot of the theming of the Six Sages was that their like abilities worked with each other. Like you could reduce the judgment cost of the other one. You could give the judgment quick cast. You could give the other one swiftness. So I think that making it so that only she got quick cast would kind of go against the spirit of what these were doing here. So I don't think that that got changed, and I'm gonna change the tap to produce 1. Spend this only on wind chance. That's gonna be my guess.
Okay. Solid guesses all the way around. A little bit of a drum roll, please, as we finish here. Do we end on a tie, or does Ryan take it back? And Ryan with the called shots here specifically got pretty much the whole thing. So after you mulligan, you're both right in the fact that you got a second mulligan. But now, instead, that second mulligan was essentially you get to draw 1 less card. So you got to you could mulligan once and then take any number, put it back in, and draw that many -1. Still, Ryan is absolutely called shot in the fact that it itself is the only thing that can judgment at quick cast. It did not give it to its partner. And Ryan also called the shot of produce 1 to spay only chance if you controlled a J ruler. So its partner had to be judgmented. So Ryan fully knocking it out of the park with the called shot on Feedsing to close it out here. Going up 2 points as we close out this episode. So well done, Ryan.
I did not think I was right, actually.
Well done. But I will say kudos to both of you. A lot of really good guesses and on point. So I asked this question to Ryan, and so I'll have a follow-up for Ryan too. But Bremont, having, a lot of these cards, I think, were actually cards that you played with, or at least were tangentially familiar with and thinking of. Now, having seen the concept of the reworking protocol and what they were going for, we talked about this last time before, where some were, sometimes they got the spirit of it. They did a great job. Not all the time, but, you could see where the effort was there. What's your thoughts, having now worked your way through a suite of the items, about this idea of like trying to revive a spirited card that was just maybe too overtuned by doing this rework? What do you think?
I think it's really fascinating. It's interesting to think about sort of trying to bring cards more into line so that more cards can be played. I think that when you introduce this concept initially, you have to pay kind of a large cost of saying, hey, some of these cards don't work as they're written on the card that you might physically own. But once you have paid that cost and you kind of understand that to be a part of this game, and like understanding this game is keeping up with that change log, then I think you can start to gain a lot of the value back from it. And as you can sort of patch cards in the way that digital card games have always been able to. And there's still some awkwardness with like bringing people in that I maintain a forcible cube that I still play frequently, and a lot of the cards that we've seen today are in that cube. And so there's still some cost of being like, oh, I can't just go look at my old cube cards and know how they work nowadays.
I will say, to that point, just really quick, the company has done a really good job in the fact that every single card that has been reworked has been re-released in its updated text. So
I think that's awesome.
They were released as part of box topper packs that were plentiful and spread out. So you were still able to use the old copy. You just had to have the Oracle text available. So most people just have I know I personally have a set of just one of every reworked card, so that I just can like keep it with me and be like, here's the updated text. So. But continue.
And given that, I think it is pretty cool. I think it's interesting to be able to kind of breathe life into these cards again that were not able to stay legal in their current state. And so, I think that's neat.
Awesome. Ryan, you've gone through 2 batches. Well, last time you talked about pretty similarly to Bremont, where it was kind of cool to see this experiment happen. Now this set of cards significantly was more cards that you had tangentially been associated with or tried playing. So where are you sitting a little bit here?
Yeah, the vibe for me this time around was very much like, oh, this is like them realizing that players just broke the game and them trying to just make the cards work the way they were like intended to be worked on in like or worked in the first place, where it's like, we're making this card, this is the intention for it, and then players are like, that's what you think, dummy. And then it's like, okay, no, for real this time, this is how this card's supposed to work. And we're like, oh, okay, so it can be played in that deck. That's the idea. We get it. And it just saw that a lot more, I think, on display this time around.
Yeah. Okay. Well, congrats to Ryan, and thank you for Brandan Bremont for joining us here. We've got one more batch, so we'll have an opportunity if Bremont wants to try to have the run back. We'll do another video, but we hope you all enjoyed this. It was a pleasure, as always, to hang with these two guys and chat about Force of Will cards. So this was the second episode of Guess the Rework. We'll be back for episode 3. Episode 3 is a lot of rulers. We pretty much saved primarily rulers for the last batch here, so I'm curious to see how that will go. And, you know, none of those are the other 6 sages, because the first time they decided to let us play 2 rulers never could have gone wrong at all, right? But thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, this has been myself, DMO73, and I've been joined by the wonderful Brandan Bremont.
Thanks for having me.
And the amazing Ryan Miles.
Always a pleasure, Jeremy.
Class dismissed. Bye, guys.